in this very messy context that we're living in, we've found this sharp, regular signal, and you know, which is so well encapsulated in this meme from Star Fairy Flame.
Like inside the organization, we're trying to have like the least amount of rules and processes to make it run, in order to let like this chaotic behavior to reach its maximum potential. Basically, even if you have a really simple system, you can have very complex behavior and patterns that will emerge in just a couple of lines of code. With only those rules and only two states, you will still have what we call the Turing complete system, which means that basically it can, if you provide him enough computation, so resources and time, it can create anything. Energy, they can walk along the microtunnel. And something that is funny here in this artistic representation is that we are inside the cell, and it seems quite empty. You know, you can see that there's some others, but in the real world, it is absolutely not this way. It's completely messy everywhere. There's like I said, there's millions of them.
Those elements of chaos and order are obvious, relate to the cryptography aspect of Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's on the course on the inner workings of Bitcoin wallets by Loic Pendule. Right. So there's especially one chapter in particular that I find it's completely relatable to what we just talked. Is the one on the use of the entropy.
Hello, Asi0. Welcome to the Bitcoin Roundtable. How are you?
Pretty fine, thank you, Jacques.
Asi0, it's great to have you today. I think, you know, despite the pivotal role that you're playing in Plan B Network, it might well be that many people have never seen your face, don't know you at all. Can you give us a brief introduction of who you are, and especially the role that you're playing at Plan B Network?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Asi0, as you said. I'm not really a public figure because most of the time my role involves that I'm more deep into the shadow and deep into below the sea level of all the things that we do at Plan B Network. And the reason why is mostly because since the beginning, I'm managing and I'm curating content and the format on how to format the content also for Plan B Network inside a GitHub repo. So basically, I'm the maintainer of it.
Right.
And also, I'm playing a role in all the organization.
So you're in charge of basically ensuring this huge library that you've got on GitHub is properly structured, and the content is sort of presented in a very standard way.
Yeah, exactly. Right? The purpose of that repo is to really try to find the standard for type of content, like tutorials or courses, in a way that any courses will have the same format, and so it will be way much easier for anyone to reuse that content instead of recreating again and again the same content. Everyone can just access to it and plug to that kind of content database.
Right. And if I understand it properly, I mean, Plan B Network's content is all open source, which means everybody can access this GitHub and download it or use it the way they want?
Yeah, exactly. So we are nearly 100% open source regarding the content. We have we have a couple of courses that are premium, but we have a model that we call internally eventually open source, which means that every content that we have that we hold for private for a certain amount of time, after a date like 1 year, most of the time it's like 1 year, it will be then into the pushed into the open source repo.
Another aspect of your work that we will discuss later on is this role you're playing in ensuring that the processes within the organization are smooth and well coordinated. All the work that you're doing in putting in place the right tools and procedures. We'll come back to it later on. At this stage, I'd like you to tell us a little bit of who you are on a more personal level, because whenever I think of you, what pops up in my mind is this picture of a bird watcher of a nature lover. Tell us more about this passion you have for nature.
Yeah, so actually, I'm only a bird watcher for the past 3 to 4 years. I think it was a common passion with my partner, and because we lived in a region where I think it is that for nearly every places in the world, but there's a lot of birds, so we really enjoyed watching it and learn about them, their behavior, their how they looks, how their feathers change along time because they are never the same if we are in winter or if we are in summer. So it's a really deep rabbit hole if you are curious about how any species just develop strategies to be better fitted with the environment. So it's really I really love doing this because it really feed my curious. And before that, I was always very eager to pass a lot of time outside because I really find that any environment is just beautiful when you take the time to look at it. It's always very simple at the first stage, but the more you look at it, the more you contemplate, the more you see like deep pattern that is present in several and completely different systems. So I really love it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the conversations we've had so far, the impression I have is that you're a very contemplative person with much interest in making sense of the world, in understanding the world, which is actually quite related to the theme of this episode, because we are discussing order and chaos, which I find an increasingly relevant topic. I mean, when we think about it, if we look around us, we've got this society, large chunks of which seems to be collapsing in front of our eyes. We see at global level sort of massive reorganization, geopolitically speaking. There's definitely some degree of chaos that's spreading everywhere, and we can sense that people are becoming more and more stressed out by what seems to them, by an alarmingly uncertain future. And in the other end, in this very messy context that we're living in, we've found this sharp, regular signal, and which is so well encapsulated in this meme from Star Fairy Flame. Are you familiar with this meme, this Bitcoiner meme?
Yeah, I already saw this. I think it was via one of your content. So, and I really appreciate it. It's really a good representation of both of them because the world and the society that we live in, the civilization, I mean, is nearly by its nature, it's really chaotic and disordered and have phases between order and disorder, whereas Bitcoin in its inner working is really, really regular and really a good countermeasure to this uncertainty of the world. So yeah, I really like this way of visualizing the Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think it was perfect to really, as you say, illustrate this confidence that we have as Bitcoiner in relying on this very regular signal, which is a source of trust, of hope, and we do grow kind of a rock solid conviction that Bitcoin will help us stay on course and navigate this very troubled times that we're going through. So we have also, I'm sure you're familiar with these analogies of Bitcoin as a compass and Bitcoin as a beacon in those very troubled waters that we are navigating at the moment, right?
Yeah, definitely. But honestly, I think one of the image and the comparison I prefer the most with Bitcoin is the one with the clock because in its working, it's as regular as a clock. Maybe
A
not
clock?
like
Did you say a clock?
yeah, a clock. Yeah.
All right.
And it's not as regular as a Swiss one or a quartz watch that we can have, but it's arriving. One thing that I find very intriguing with Bitcoin is that without any kind of information from the external world, the system itself can create its own arrow of time. We can relate with the image that you shown because this arrow of time is a direction to look out, is something where we can refer and have trust on the information that is inside this blockchain, this time chain that is the Bitcoin ledger.
Yeah, we'll come back to this notion of time, I guess, later on. But yeah, I mean, it seems really that there's this. I mean, the theme of this episode really is that there's order and there's chaos, and we want to examine a little bit from a Bitcoiner's perspective this sort of tension or dance that there's between this chaos and order, which we find everywhere. We find it everywhere in the world. We find it in the economy. We find it including in Bitcoin, although also we find it in the way money itself has emerged in our history, right? So the idea is that we explore it together. And yeah, I mean, the reason why I wanted to have you today with me to approach this topic is I know it's a topic that's very dear to you. What is it in this topic that you find so fascinating? Can you share with us some reflection on it?
Yeah. I'll try to do my best. So yeah, for sure, this dance that you are referring between order and chaos, it's something that I really pass a lot of time to reflect on, and especially because, like I said earlier, I really love to watch what is the underlying patterns of all the system that is all around us, and there's always this tension between order and chaos. And on my side, as I did some studies in physics, I understand that the word chaos is commonly used, and I think it is more used as a philosophical sense. But in physics, we prefer the word disorder as the
Right.
symmetrical of order. And disorder is more close to randomness also, because chaos in itself is more related to be sensible to the initial condition, like a slight change in something can change completely the course of the trajectory of your system. And but here in the film, yeah, it's really this relation between disorder and order, randomness and ordered information is really powerful, because it is really via this emergent pattern that the whole complexity of the world appears, like in any scales of the world. So it's very fascinating.
That's it. I mean, I remember a couple of decades ago, I had probably just finished my PhD, and I read these, pop science books on chaos theory, and that was my first introduction to this dance between chaos and order, and these pictures of flock of birds flying like so graciously, so unpredictably, but in such a coherent way. For me, it was like it was like a divine experience, really. It was, for me, that's just the beauty incarnated. And so the first company that I established, that I funded, I used as a logo this butterfly from Lawrence, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is sort of the illustration of the order that is implicit in the apparent chaotic dataset of rainfall patterns in the UK or something like that, right?
Yeah, he put his finger on chaotic theory, because he was doing some computation nearly by hand, and with a very let's say rustic, primitive. Thank you. Primitive calculator. And each day at the end of his workday, he had to truncate his number. And when the next day he started again with this number, he saw that he got completely different trajectory from what he got the past day. So he thought that there were problem underlying this, and he just he tried to describe it with a very simple system. It's a very simple system of three equation, I guess. And when he solved that system, he saw a pattern emerging in the trajectories of the system that looks like a butterfly. And this is why the butterfly the butterfly reference comes from.
Butterfly effect, yeah, dependence on initial conditions, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because that butterfly of trajectories, you can see that if you just start at a point that is slightly different than the one that you already did, then you get a completely different trajectory. But nonetheless, if you take some distance with it, you can see that even though all the trajectory are completely different based on your initial conditions, it will still be contained in a very structured way.
Yeah, and I find this extremely reassuring. What I understand is that, this, as you say, this boundary between order and chaos, or order and disorder, is not so clear cut as we might think. It has to do with a perception, our ability to actually discern those patterns which are implicit, which may be hidden. In the case of the birds, we can see it, but if you're in an insect, a living being with a different perception, you might not see the order that we witness in this flock of bird. And the interesting thing, and here I'm sure we can learn a lot from your scientific research, is that this order is actually present, not only omnipresent everywhere in the cosmos, but also at each and every scale of organization of the matter, right?
Yeah. So in physics, most of the time, what we use to measure this level of order or disorder is a quantity that we call entropy, and I'm sure that most of the people already heard of it. And it's also a reflection of the quality, let's say, of the information that you got in your system. But there is something that is particular, is that even though we are quite sure that the extreme, like a very, very high entropy state and a very, very low entropy state, will have absolutely no information, the range in between is really blurred. There's no like fixed frontier between something that is ordered or something that is disordered. So, and this range, this blurry range, is where the subjectivity of the agents, let's say, of the world will try to define meanings, and will try to extract meaning of the system, and try to increase the complexity of it. I think this is why it is present at nearly all the scales, is that because you having the right balance between order and disorder will make there will be some emergence of complexity, and the complexity itself will most of the time be self-replicate, like it will try to maintain its state or increase its complexity also, but it's always limited in time, of course.
Does it relate to this video that you shared with me, Le Jeu de la Vie, the game of life? I mean, I'm not really familiar with all this notion of entropy and everything. For some reason, it doesn't really penetrate my brain. But you've got this simulation that you shared with me. Do you want to comment on it, or what is it? What are the essential insight that we need to keep from this video?
Yeah, for me, what is very insightful with the game of life, so it's a well-known mathematical creature from a mathematician called Conway, is that a very simple system, even if you have a really simple system, you can have very, very complex behavior and patterns that will emerge, because everything that you see here on the screen are only originated from two states. So a cell, so it's a point of the inside the grid, can either be what we say alive or dead, so 1 or 0. Mm-hmm. And each turn we will, based on only 3 rules, dictate what will be the next state of the grid. And those three, I think it's 3 or 2 or 4 rules, but they are very basic. Like it's one for replication, one for overpopulation, and so on. It's really simple rules. Anyone can program this game in just a couple of lines of code. Yeah, it's really simple to write as a program. Like it's most of the time it's one of the first program that you do when you want to learn a language, because it's quite easy and you get insightful. You get beautiful visualization like this. And the thing that is really intriguing is that we find it really fast that with only those rules and only 2 states, you will still have what we call the Turing complete system, which means that basically it can, if you provide him enough computation, so resources and time, it can create anything. So it can even replicate itself, and all. This is one of the things that I find it way to study this kind of system. You really get a sense. I really get a sense of vertigo when I'm looking at it, because it's so deep into the complexity with just simple rules, and it's based on a type of system that is called a cellular automaton.
Yeah,
and it's really present everywhere. This type of
I think it's indeed a nice demonstration. I mean, it looks alive. It definitely looks alive. It's growing in complexity. It's evolving. It's drawing shapes that are beautiful, elegant. I'm sure there's some degree of efficiency in the way the thing is developing. So there's a lot that relates to organic life. So indeed, and that all starts with a few rules and a few instructions to follow, right?
Yeah, exactly. But one point is that you mentioned the efficiency of it, and this is something that is quite funny, because it seems maybe efficient, but it is absolutely not. And this is something that is really funny with, let's say, emergent system, is that we have really simple set of rules, but the efficiency of itself is not very high, because if you have to be resilient into for your environment, or resilient in the general sense, you have to have a lot redundancy in your system in order to be resistant to that to the noise of the outside, basically.
Yeah. Can you tell us about this? This video is something you shared with me, which is absolutely stunning. Can you tell us what it is and how it relates to what you've researched during you did a PhD, right?
Yeah. Right. So what we are saying is inside all our cells, inside the cells that we have, and basically we have what we call microtubules. So it's the long strings. There's like millions of them inside a single cell, and they are showing the structure, the inner structure of the cell, but also they are serving as some kind of highway, because the cell itself needs to move around proteins from one spot to the other one, to another one. And life, basically, just a way that has been found to make this happen is just to have other proteins that are specialized into this displacement of bundle of proteins, and these proteins are capable of attaching themselves to these long microtubules, and then using energy they can walk along the microtubule. And something that is funny here in this artistic representation is that we are inside the cell, and it seems quite empty. You can see that there's others, but in the real world, it is absolutely not this way. It's completely messy everywhere. There's like I said, there's millions of them inside the cell, and also this little guy that are working on it. They are not walking; they are running as fast as hell. Because if we consider them as our scale, so one step is like 1 meter, they will be as fast as a high train, so nearly like 300 kilometers per hour. So it's very, very fast. They are running so fast on this
it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. And what I get from it is, okay, it's splendid, so it's just amazing and just shocked by the beauty of it. But what I get also is that the more we develop the tools of observation, the more we expand our capacity of perceiving, a perception capacity, the more we realize how everything is so well organized and structured. Really down on me, this is a realization that I got when I was studying water. I did my master degree and PhD on water, and at some stage I got really interested in the inner structure of water. And you've got guys who are really studying the structure of water, which can be, you may think of water of something that's relatively amorphous and chaotic. It can be relatively chaotic, but when you study it, you can also find out that it can behave in a way that's super structured. Or this structure, you find it in the snowflakes for sure, but even in liquid water, I mean, you find some structure. And the more structured the water, it seems the better it can convey information of all kinds. That could be energy current from the cosmos or artificial current. That could be any kind of information, it seems. So 15 years ago, it was still relatively heretic science, but increasingly that sort of understanding is becoming mainstream. And I'm fairly confident we will witness interesting technological development based on this inner structure of water. Anyway, what is now clear to every viewer is that Asi0 is a nature lover and is really obsessed with understanding the inner functioning of life at the micro level and at the most cosmic level. So it's like an existential quest for you. And what you told me the other day is that this is pretty much what drove you to Bitcoin, is to how to understand. Tell me, you tried to understand how this apparent living being is operating, or what was it?
Yeah, initially it was very from a practical reason, because I was trying to find a way to save without trusting anyone. And at some point, I stumbled on that information that Bitcoin is apparently able to do that. So I was quite intrigued by it, because it was for me it was quite impossible to do it. Otherwise, why we wouldn't do it? And I was absolutely not aware of all the previous attempt to do digital money or private money. So it was really the first time I was looking at this type of object. So, but like most of the time, when I'm looking at something that I don't really understand why it works and how it works before why, I took a book and I just deeply studied it, and I'm studying from the economic point of view, because I'm less knowledgeable. Yeah, I'm less knowledgeable about it, so I really wanted to know to get it. So I started with obviously the Bible of it, so the Bitcoin standard, and then I went into the technical aspect, because I really wanted to understand how it works and how it was possible to do it. And it was the book of Antonopoulos, the Mastery Bitcoin, that was really a treasure for me, because it really answered a lot of my question, and it was incredibly mind blowing that such a system seems at the same time really simple at some level and can achieve so much complexity with it. So this is why I find that there's a lot of relation with other systems that I really love to watch, like really simple apparent system, but can display a lot of complex behavior. With Bitcoin, it's nearly it's exactly the same. And like you are displaying here this article of DRGG, one of my favorite author of all time in Bitcoin, written this awesome article about the struggle of Bitcoin between order and disorder, and it is so much of a masterpiece too.
Yeah, and then you've continued your journey of exploring Bitcoin by diving into all this literature that's been produced around this analogy between Bitcoin. Is that an analogy? Is that a reality? You know, Bitcoin as a living organism. So here we've got a whole list of essays, and there's a lot from Brandon Quitten, but many people have actually written and have been fascinated by the lifelike living properties of Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, definitely. So for sure, it is not like a living organism in the literal sense, because it's quite difficult to define life itself. But some scientists were amused to trying to get like a more refined and rigid definition of life. So they call it life too, but with a Y. With this definition, Bitcoin is definitely something that behaves like a living thing, because there's the replication, the redundancy, the resilience, the capacity to be resilient to the external environment and all. And there's so many image and comparison that you can do with Bitcoin and kind of living organism, like a mind virus and everything. And I think it is for some reason. It's because in its inner working, it shares some similarities with them.
Well, the sure thing is when you see how the thing is obsessing ourselves, I mean, it definitely works perfectly to propagate itself in the mind of the users, of the human users who depend on it, who are fascinated by it. And it's a whole community alive around it, right? That sustains it and benefits from it. So I guess you call it saprophytism, that sort of of mutual reciprocal relationship, mutually beneficial relationship between the humans and the Bitcoin mechanics, right? Program.
Yeah.
Now, if we shift gear and we look at your work at Plan B Network, we can probably say that there's also quite a bit of a tension and dance between order and chaos in the organization, in the way it has grown, in the way it operates on a daily basis. Can you tell us about this? How does this tension between order and chaos manifest in the organization?
Yeah, so most of the time, I think, and it's quite similar to nearly all organization, the disorder come from the external environment. Like we can have a lot of new things that appears, new opportunities, new things to produce, new type of content to produce, and all. And we are like most of my job is trying to format this randomness and disordered information into something that is structured and that we can work and develop on top of. We have also our own inner source of chaos inside, because and most of the time they are the person who are reaching out and trying to interact with the Bitcoin ecosphere. So, and I think this is a good balance to have inside any group of people, and especially inside an organization, to have this dance between order and disorder, because it is from there that you can, like we just saw, make the emergence of the complexity of everything. And this is why we don't have like a really oriented direction for Plan B Network itself. We are really just exploring right now and saying what can be interesting to provide as content, but also as any project, what can be helpful for the whole community in order to facilitate the education at large scale.
That's it. You need to be creative and produce new sort of content that may appeal to the newcomers, to the public. You need to be super structured and relatively disciplined in organizing the rolling out of all these programs in all these languages. And at the same time, I'm pretty sure you're super happy to have people like Giacomo and Roxy next to you. I'm sure if you get an entry point into their brains and you stay still listening to what's happening in their brain, you're going to find it very chaotic. But it's just that as a person, I may not have the perceptual ability to see the dance, the flock of birds, the whole creativity that's happening in their busy minds. But yeah, so I guess it's a matter of combining those dancing elements, this bottom-up creativity, and also ensure you have some level of structured that ensure the organization can operate, right?
Yeah, right. Like inside the organization, we're trying to have like the least amount of rules to and processes to make it run, in order to let like this chaotic behavior to reach its maximum potential, basically. And also something that can be quite a challenge is that the operation of the organization, we're trying to be like as open source as possible, also, and self-hosted in all regards. Like all the tools that we are using, we are trying to use an open source alternative and trying to self-host also. And that can be quite a challenge, because most of the software that are open source are not really, let's say, organization grade. So we are trying to tweak them in order to make it happen, but it is still something that is really enjoyable to do.
Right. And in terms of the content now, if we focusing on the educational content that you're providing on the platform, and which, as everybody knows, covers quite a broad field, from economics to cryptography, technology, philosophy, etc. Where do we see this tension between order and chaos? Yeah, do you have some suggestions of content where this dance is evident?
Definitely. So for on my side, I think there's like 3 courses especially where I find this underlying chaotic behavior and or structured also behaviors that are present. The first one is the course on cryptography, on the Bitcoin cryptography itself.
Shall we take a look at it?
Yeah, definitely. You wanted me to share my screen?
Yes, that'd be great. Okay, so you were saying the first course where this those elements of chaos and order are obvious relate to the cryptography aspect of Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's on the course on the inner workings of Bitcoin wallets by Loic Pendule.
Right.
So there's especially one chapter in particular that I find it's completely relatable to what we just talked. Is the one on the use of the entropy for creating your Bitcoin wallet, because this is something that is really powerful. Is that any Bitcoin wallet will use this randomness that you can get from the external world, and based on that, it will create a secret that nobody can access, and nobody can just hack you. If you store it properly. So and the use of this entropy will help you to generate the whole wallet and your very highly deterministic address that you will use for Bitcoin.
So the whole super complex hierarchical structure of the wallet itself stems from a random sequence of digits. That is the most random you can think of, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So there's this one, and then another course that I was thinking about was the one on the origin story of Bitcoin itself, because there's something that is quite interesting with a complex system, is that most of the time they display what we call a path dependence property, is that the characteristic will highly depend on the path that they took in the past. Right. And I think Bitcoin is definitely has definitely that property too, because the way Bitcoin has been built and designed can only emerge if all the previous attempts from many people in the past decades have tested on their own and failed at some scale.
Right.
But yeah, and the last one that I was thinking of is also is the one about the philosophical history of freedom, because inside this course they describing two types of political philosophies that are the philosophy of freedom and the philosophy of power. And I find it that it is quite interesting because I can relate these two concepts with these two type of structured system that can exist, like the top bottom one or the bottom top system, and they are both interesting in their own manner, and they are sometimes the more appropriate solution for certain situation. But yeah, for money, I think the one that is more bottom top is a higher quality than the other one. Sure.
So this relates to this small video we watched a few minutes ago, whereby the life emerges from a few simple rules, and complexity of organization arises from a few simple rules. So that would be the freedom order, which is based on maybe just a respect of private property, free speech, a few rules that you don't mess up with, can give birth to highly complex and creative societies, whereas a top-down order with a code of law that's very broad, very detailed, that's supposed to address each and every circumstance of life. Yeah, it might have some reassuring benefit in the short term, in the sense that it provides you with guidance of what to do in some situation, but very likely this type of system is going to be very rigid, overly inflexible, and will need to be reformed at some stage. Yeah, just because external circumstances, as you say, are just changing all the time. And if you fail to reform, you just break. And that's probably what's happening these days. I mean, all the social, political, institutional order that has been relatively operational during the past 90 years, although it's created a lot of damage, it's worked in some way. We can see that all these rules have become largely obsolete and needs to be reformed. Otherwise, it's just going to break, and it's difficult to reform a system when you have entrenched interests that depend on the continuation of those rules, right?
Yeah, definitely. This is really common in the top-bottom system, that they are highly efficient, but only in the short term, because, like you said, they will not be able to adapt from the external disorder and chaos. So that is intrinsic to reality. So at some point they will need to adapt. But if they are too top-bottom, so they will not be aware of what has been what is changing all around, and then they will be completely obsolete regarding the current conditions. So yeah, I'm thinking also that we are in a period of time where we need to switch from a top bottom way of organizing our societies with another one that would be more bottom top, honestly.
Yeah, and just a question: if we look at Bitcoin mining, we might also be able to find in Bitcoin mining some illustration of the randomness that is at the heart of Bitcoin. I mean, in the proof of work process, it seems like this need to find the right nonce, or to find the right number, in the process of mining, which is actually found in a very unpredictable way, right? And you were also referring to the time machine, Bitcoin, the time machine. There's also a slight unpredictability in the interval of time that we're going to find between two blocks. Now, it's on average around 10 minutes, but there's nothing extremely regular around it. It's more like a heartbeat. It's not like a mechanic clock. It's more like a heartbeat that's adjusting to various circumstances, right?
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I think the working of the blockchain itself, the time chain of Bitcoin. I think this is one of the area of Bitcoin that is the most that the resemblance with the living system is, because, like you said, the mining process itself is just searching for randomness and searching inside randomness the right number in order to find the next block, and the block itself, when it has been found, it is not like completely disordered to something ordered. At some point in the future, it can still be reorganized, the chain, as the block is buried deep down by other blocks on top of it. It will become more and more ordered. So there's also this notion of this blurriness between order and disorder in the mining process.
Right. Excellent. I think this provides us with a good sense of all the contents available on the platform, where we can see this tension between chaos and order in Bitcoin, in the economy, in the emergence of money, in the philosophy that the humans are living by. Anything you want to share with the viewers before we conclude this conversation?
Yeah, I will have several points. The first one is that we have also curated lots of conference replays. I think the oldest one is like from 2011,
right?
And it is a good way also to see all this messiness that humans will do in order to structure Bitcoin itself, because it is I'm really convinced that it is via this type of events that people is also structuring Bitcoin by explaining to others, and also by having a conversation between technical people.
Right.
So if you didn't have the chance to go to these conferences, please go and have a look. You can have a great time watching them.
And do you have a particular panel discussion or presentation that you have in mind, which you want to suggest or no?
No, not necessarily. I think here it's just using the random. Click on a random one, and you will be still fascinated by it.
And then for those who haven't read those text essays yet, as you highly recommend Bitcoin's Eternal Struggle by DGG, and all this series of essays around Bitcoin as a living organism, right?
Yeah, definitely. They are really mind-blowing articles that will expand your mind regarding Bitcoin. So one thing I wanted to add too is that like I said at the beginning of it, is that the whole content is open source, so it is open to any contribution, and we especially we are very open to the proofreading contribution, because we create content in a original language, but then we are doing our best to translate it in a maximum number of languages. But nonetheless, the tools that we are using automatic most of the time, so we need to have human
proper editing,
verification.
right?
Yeah. And just verify and proofread it. And what we are trying to do as some incentives is that we reward people that are doing the proofreading in sets. So if you want to earn some easy set by learning and
what's the rate?
It really depends. It depends on the language and the difficulty of the content too. And everything is on the GitHub repo, and we also have a Telegram group. So feel free to reach out, and you will be welcome.
Right, excellent. So everyone, including all the Indonesian, in this episode, we're talking to all the Bitcoiners in Indonesia, Bali. I mean, there are so many languages over there. I'm sure there are plenty sets to be made in editing the courses in all those local languages. Asi0, many thanks for your time, for sharing your insights with us. I wish you and all the Plan B team all the best for this year. Keep surfing this mighty wave between order and chaos, and keep delivering the beautiful and so instructive content on the platform. Thanks a lot, Asi0, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jack. Bye.